Namaskar and a very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. A very warm welcome to all the delegates of the Association of Development Financing Institutions in Asia and the Pacific, ADFIAP's 41st annual meeting here in India. And I am your host, Sanati Pani. On behalf of ADFIAP member institutions in India, we welcome you all to the 41st ADFIAP annual meeting. ADFIAP, as you're all aware, acts as the focal point of development banks and other financial institutions engaged in financing development in the Asia-Pacific region. Ladies and gentlemen, this great journey began in the year 1976 with a vision of fostering sustainable socio-economic and environmental development in the Asia-Pacific region, and translating its vision, ADFIAP has been growing from strength to strength and is today a 131 member strong organization with a presence spanning 45 countries. Ladies and gentlemen, it is with great warmth and joy that we welcome members of ADFIAP to India and open the meeting, for which the theme has been kept as promoting inclusive and sustainable development, the role of DFIs to reflect the global agenda today. Ladies and gentlemen, may I please request you to kindly join me in extending a very warm and hearty welcome to our chief guest for this occasion. We have with us Mr. Arun Jaitley, Honorable Union Minister of Finance and Corporate Affairs, Government of India. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to take this opportunity to extend a very warm welcome to our distinguished dignitaries on the dais. We have with us Mr. Shivji Roy Yadav, Chairman, ADFIAP. We have with us Mr. R. Amalor Pavanathan, Deputy Managing Director, NABARD. Mr. Debashish Malik, Deputy Managing Director, Exim Bank. We have with us Mr. Sriram Kalyana Raman, Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of the National Housing Bank. And we also have with us Mr. Mahesh Kumar Jain, Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer, IDBI Bank. Once again, an extremely warm welcome to all of you. Ladies and gentlemen, it is customary to welcome our esteemed guests, and to do the honors, may I please request Mr. Mahesh Jain to present a floral bouquet to our chief guest, to Honorable Minister, Mr. Arun Jaitley, as a warm welcome gesture. May I now request Mr. Debashish Malik to kindly present a shawl as a mark of respect to Honorable Minister, Mr. Arun Jaitley. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, it is also customary in the Indian tradition to light the lamp before new and auspicious beginnings, as we believe that light symbolizes knowledge, purity, and the ability to turn darkness into illumination. So as we begin the proceedings with the traditional lighting of the lamp to reflect the spirit with those who have assembled here will help in spreading the light of the knowledge far and wide. I request Honorable Minister, Mr. Arun Jaitley, and distinguished dignitaries to kindly light the ceremonial lamp. Thank you, Honorable Minister, and thank you, distinguished dignitaries on the dais, for the lighting of the ceremonial lamp. May I please request you to kindly take your seats. Ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, I would like to now commence the formal proceedings of the inaugural session, and may I firstly invite Mr. Mahesh Kumar Jain, MD and CEO of IDBI Bank, and may I please request him to kindly deliver the opening remarks.
Respected Honorable Finance Minister, and Corporate Affairs, Shri Arun Jaitley ji, Government of India, Shri Shivji Rao Yadav, Chairman, ADFIAP, Shri Shri Ram Kalyanaraman, MD and CEO, NHB, other dignitaries on the dais, the friends from press, electronic and print media, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, very warm good evening to all of you. It is my honor to welcome each and every one of you to the 41st annual meeting of Association of Development Financial Institutions in Asia and the Pacific, called ADFIAP. We are honored today to have in our midst distinguished participants attending from across the Asia-Pacific region. I would like to extend a very warm welcome to India to all of you. It is indeed a privilege for us that Shri Jaitley, most respected Honorable Union Minister of Finance and Corporate Affairs, has joined us despite of his busy schedule and will be delivering the keynote address of the meeting, setting the tone for our deliberations during the sessions that follow. We stand to gain tremendously from his invaluable inputs rooted in his experience of spearheading wide-ranging reforms in the country, which have and will continue to propel growth along a higher trajectory in a sustainable manner. Export-led development strategies have played a central role generating economic growth throughout the Asia-Pacific region. Asia's share in global export is around 40%, and this has been insulated by ensuring a strong manufacturing base coupled with policy reforms focused on attracting global investment flows. The well-targeted structural reform, which have helped the region to drive economic growth, has also paved the way for progressive shift of the global economic power in favor of Asian economies. The regional economic outlook for Asia and Pacific, as published by IMF, predict that economic growth will remain strong at 5.4% in 2018. The theme of this year's annual meeting, Sir, promoting inclusive and sustainable development, role of DFIs, is thus particularly relevant as we examine the prospect of redefining the paradigm of inclusivity. Sustainable inclusivity incorporates intra and intergeneration equity in the sense that growth will be able to create opportunities for all segments of the population and distribute the dividends of increased prosperity, both in monetary and non-monetary terms, equitably across society. In India too, the major thrust of the government's economic policy has been oriented towards creating opportunities for the bottom of the pyramid. A plethora of reform measures have been undertaken in the last few years in areas as diverse as financial inclusion, skill development, indigenous manufacturing development, entrepreneurship development, especially among disadvantaged sections of the society, health and social security measures, etc. Given this focus on equitable, broad-based and shared growth, it is quite appropriate that ADFIAP 41st annual meeting, which is focusing on inclusive and sustainable development, is being held in India. Accordingly, we have devised the plenary session in manner that would allow us to discuss about the major sector of an economy, that is agriculture, affordable housing, MSME, infrastructure, and trade finance. These sectors are extremely important components of promoting inclusive growth as their benefits percolate to every strata of society. Over the years, many developing economies in the Asian region specifically have transitioned from low-income economies to middle-income economies, mainly on the back of globalization. Contrasting with its economic progress, the domestic inequalities persist, which makes it imperative that the domestic policies are focused on enhancing the inclusiveness of the hard-earned economic growth. With these remarks, I wish you fruitful and thought-provoking deliberations as well as a pleasant stay in India. I hope that owing to your unreserved and uninhibited insight, we will emerge with strong resolution on how we move forward, strengthening and enabling equitable, inclusive, and sustainable development across economies. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Jain, for your warm welcome address and for setting the tone for the 2 days of the 41st ADFIAP meeting. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to now invite Mr. Shivji Roy Yadav, Chairman ADFIAP, And may I kindly request him to kindly deliver his address.
The Honorable Union Minister of Finance and Corporate Affairs, Government of India, Mr. Arun Jaitley, our esteemed member host here in India, fellow delegates, colleagues in development banking, friends, ladies and gentlemen. A very pleasant evening to you all. On behalf of the Association of Development Financial Institutions in Asia and Pacific, I wish to welcome you all to the 41st ADFIAP annual meeting set here in this dynamic capital city of New Delhi. First of all, on behalf of the ADFIAP Board of Directors and myself, I wish to express my sincere gratitude to our chief guest, the Honorable Union Finance Minister, Government of India, Mr. Arun Jaitley, for making time to be with us here today for this opening ceremony. Thank you, Honorable Minister. Please allow me to thank our member hosts here in India, IDBI Bank, Export-Import Bank of India, National Housing Bank, National Bank of Agriculture and Rural Development, Northeastern Development Finance Corporation Limited, and Entrepreneurship Development Institute of India for graciously hosting this annual meeting here in New Delhi. Thank you all. I wish also to extend our thanks and appreciation to all our officers and staff of these host institutions who have been a part of the secretariat for this meeting, who have worked tirelessly and exceptionally hard to host us here in New Delhi. Thank you everyone for all your efforts. Our appreciation also goes to all the speakers, members and guests who came all the way from overseas to be here with us, to meet and greet one another, to learn from each other and to work together toward sustainable future for development banking. This year is very special to all of us in ADFIAP as we are celebrating our 41st year of existence as an association for sustainable development from 31 charter member in 1976. ADFIAP has stood the test of time as a focal point of now 91 member DFIs from 36 countries for sustainable development finance in this part of the world. So it is fitting and very timely for this 41st annual conference. We choose the theme Sustainable and Inclusive Development, Role of DFIs. With the formulation and implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals 2030, DFIs are again called upon by the government to play a key and active role in the attainment of this SDG. It is this regard that ADFIAP, though the board director together with its management staff have adopted a revitalized strategic framework to sustain its work and advocacy in advancing sustainable development. As in the past, this year conference aims to provide a platform for exchange of idea and sharing of knowledge. Such exchange could not be more opportune and relevant at this time. While DFIs represented here in this annual meeting come from different countries and operate under different economic environment, we share commonalities in the concept, principle and practice of development finance jointly. We will seek the answer of the question of how best our respective DFIs can effectively respond to sustainable and inclusive development, meet the challenges it poses, and exploit the opportunity it may present. At this annual meeting, we will exchange ideas and share experience on sustainable development goal related issue and lot of ground to cover in such a short time. In closing, I do hope that we will all benefit from this personal and professional exchange and interactions with one another, but let us also have to time here to celebrate our work and achievement amid this beautiful setting that Delhi and our kind host have to offer. Thank you very much. Namaste.
Thank you, Mr. Shivji Roy Yadav, for your warm address and giving us an overview of ADFIAP's activities, initiatives, as well as achievements. Ladies and gentlemen, it gives us immense pleasure to announce that Exim Bank will be launching its publication on revitalizing trade finance, development banks and export credit agencies at the vanguard at this forum. Ladies and gentlemen, this study is an attempt to analyze the recent trends in trade finance flows, challenges that have constrained its growth, and strategies which can be adopted to bridge the huge existing global trade finance deficit. This study outlines the various mechanisms through which multilateral development banks, export credit agencies, and development finance institutions are currently contributing towards meeting the trade finance gaps and suggests reflect options through which these financial institutions can further enhance their role in fulfilling this unmet demand. With these words, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to now request our chief guest, Honorable Minister, Mr. Arun Jaitley, to kindly launch this publication. Sir, please. India has been going through a period of change, one that saw new ideas being formulated and one that charted a new course of growth and challenged old notions. Over the past few years, we as citizens of India have experienced change like never before, and finance has been a strong impetus to this change. One of the key architects of this change, ladies and gentlemen, is Mr. Arun Jaitley, Honorable Union Minister of Finance and Corporate Affairs. And with these words, may I now request him to kindly make the keynote address.
Mr. Mahesh Kumar Jain, the Chairperson of the IDBI, Mr. Shivaji Roy Yadav, other distinguished colleagues in the dais and friends. I'm indeed delighted to join all of you at the inauguration of this conference where representatives of 39 countries are here to really discuss the developmental agenda which the Asia-Pacific region certainly needs, as does the rest of the world itself. The developmental agenda, and more particularly as has been pointed out in the opening comments of Mr. Yadav and Mr. Jain, the Sustainable Development Goals remains a target for all emerging societies itself. And therefore we have here representatives of some of the developmental finance institutions in India, the NABARD, the Exim Bank, the IDBI, the National Housing Bank, which amongst others have been, from our own domestic experience, been playing a very vital role as far as developmental finance is concerned. Certainly one of the great challenges is poverty alleviation, and accompanying it one looks at the important sectors which have been just highlighted, and I do understand that in the course of the deliberation tomorrow you have earmarked certain sectors, particularly trade finance, SMEs, and agriculture, amongst the other sectors where developmental finance is very eminently itself required. Our own experience in India has been that these are some of the sectors which we need to very strongly encourage. There are sectors of the economy which over the last few years have significantly picked up. And therefore we have a fairly robust service sector. We have now a manufacturing sector which is itself growing. But agriculture is one sector which certainly needs a lot of support. Rural development, where a lot of developmental finance is required, and through various instrumentalities, we try and keep the funding alive in order to improve the quality of life of people in those sectors, is certainly a very important area where the developmental finance itself is required. And when we look at the sources, and this being one of the primary challenges, and I'm sure in the course of your deliberations when you discuss sector after sector, these areas would be discussed. But in the long analysis, aid, assistance, grants are only a minuscule contribution to the developmental process. It is your own resources, and those resources really emerge either out of a country's own budgetary strengths, or they emerge out of the strength of its own banking system, which has the potential to encourage this developmental finance itself. To strengthen the budgetary system, you certainly require a robust economy, a growing economy, and you require a taxation system where people pay what they are supposed to pay. And therefore, this is one area on which a large number of developing economies have a lot of ground to cover. Our own experience in India has been the series of steps that we have taken over the last few years in this area have certainly contributed to a significant extent. On direct taxes, I can say with a sense of satisfaction, the number of people paying taxes now has numerically increased. The quantum of tax paid by them has significantly increased. But we are still far away from everybody paying legitimately what he's supposed to pay, because that itself goes into the kitty of the national resource, which in turn becomes an instrument of developmental finance for the country. The new system of indirect tax that we have now adopted, itself being a more efficient system, is showing some early signs of adding to the resource of the state. And I'm sure that as the system progresses and more anti-evasion measures are added to it, its own capacity to improve upon the resource of the state to spend on development itself will increase. At the end of the day, ultimately, a state with financial resources, with a better financial muscle, itself is able to service the cause of poor much better. And therefore, its struggle for a better health care, for a better educational system, for a better infrastructure, for a better social infrastructure, and for subsidizing the sections which need the benefit of the state support, itself also improves. The other important area, of course, is a country's banking system itself. At the end of the day, when an institution like NABARD gives a lot of agricultural credit, it comes really out of the strength of our banking system itself. And therefore, when banks have an ability to lend, then their ability to lend also for trade finance, for SMEs itself increases. And that is where I think we are now facing emerging challenges as far as the Indian society is concerned. We faced over the last few years the challenge of increased NPAs in the banking sector itself, particularly in the state-owned banking sectors. Now, one of the direct consequences of this was that the ability of the state to spend and lend even for developmental activities itself then gets curtailed. And at the end of the day, the system struggled to find solutions after various experimentation as to how to deal with that challenge. After various schemes, we finally, I think, hit upon the right point through the Insolvency and the Bankruptcy Code, whose initial functioning itself appears to be quite encouraging. And with an early harvest from there, coupled with a very difficult decision that the government had to take with regard to the recapitalization of the bank. That decision itself, as some of my friends in Parliament described it, also had moral issues about it. Because at the end of the day, when NPAs become unacceptably high, you expect the taxpayer really to fund what unprincipled sections of the industry has been able to take out. And therefore, there is a moral hazard in the kind of solution, but there was no other option, and therefore we had to take that difficult course itself. And therefore, while it seems situation appeared to be coming on track, you have now again emerging challenges. And therefore, these emerging challenges eventually all strike at what one of your main purposes is, which is development and growth, and the need for developmental banks itself, and the need for the developmental, increasing the capacity of the developmental finances itself. Any such system of banking really functions on trust. And that trust is inherent in the lender-creditor relationship. I think that relationship in India blurred itself out, where a section, not so ethical a section, perhaps thought that it was not his responsibility to pay back. And therefore, we had to come back with hard solutions. And today, when we look at the emerging situation, even if these are stray cases, they throw up several important questions. They throw up, the first important question is with regard to the lack of ethics that a section of Indian business follows. And therefore, it is incumbent on us as a state, till the last legitimate capacity of the state, to really chase these people to the last possible conclusion to make sure that the country is not cheated. The second question which arises is, when a society has invested so heavily in its banking system, when the taxpayers have invested so heavily into the banking system, and we really, and I remember, I think Mr. Jain himself was there, when the Prime Minister at the Gyan Sangam himself announced that we want you to be autonomous. None of us is going to call you up. And therefore, take your own decisions. When authority is given to the managements, you are expected to utilize that authority effectively and in the right manner. And therefore, a question for the managements itself is, were they found lacking? And on the face of it, the answer seems to be, yes, they were. They were found also lacking in being able to check who amongst them were the delinquents itself. The third important question is, which is addressed to our friends in the profession, what are our auditors doing? If both internal and external auditors really have looked the other way or failed to detect, then I am sure the profession of chartered accountants itself and those who control the discipline of that profession itself will start introspecting and seeing what are the legitimate actions which are to be taken. And of course, there is also an important challenge where the supervisory agencies have now to introspect as to what are the additional mechanisms they have to put into place to make sure that stray cases don't become a pattern again. And stray cases itself are nipped in the bud, and an example is made of those people that these bad examples itself are never to be repeated once again. I say this because these kind of developments have a cost to the country and a cost to the taxpayer. It's a direct cost. And it has an indirect cost which impinges on development, which impinges upon the lending capacity of banks as an institution, and therefore it obviously impinges upon developmental finance, which is a subject which you are going to be discussing tomorrow. And I'm sure even though your focus is going to be those 5 areas of developmental activities, but no developmental activity is completely possible in the abstract till it is adequately funded. And therefore, its funding will always remain an inherent aspect of the developmental mechanism itself. I'm sure this provides us with some food for thought, and I'm quite certain tomorrow's deliberations, though that is not the main item of your agenda, but will certainly help us to put our heads together and look for better solution to much bigger challenges that we have ahead of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister, for your keynote address. You spoke of poverty alleviation as one of the biggest challenges, with sectors like agriculture and rural development requiring special attention. And in this regard, you shared how banks can play an important role in the development and nation building. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to now call upon Mr. Amalur Pavanathan to kindly present a memento to our Honorable Chief Guest, Mr. Arun Jaitley, as a gesture of our gratitude and heartfelt thanks. May I now request Mr. Yadav to kindly present the ADFIAP plaque to Honorable Minister, Mr. Arun Jaitley. Thank you. May I now request Mr. Sriram Kalyaraman to kindly propose a vote of thanks.
Good evening. Honorable Union Minister for Finance and Corporate Affairs, Sri Arun Jaitley ji, distinguished members on the dais, guests who have been here, and my colleagues in National Housing Bank. It's my privilege to propose a vote of thanks for this inaugural section of 41st ADFIAP meeting. We are very grateful that in his keynote address, Sri Arun Jaitley ji outlined the opportunities and challenges in the development financial institution, and with the need how a disciplined approach all around would help the governments to pump in more money and thereby benefiting one and all. The Government of India, in its multifaceted reforms and initiatives towards promoting inclusive and sustainable development work, and a significant step in the history in reforms in this country. Sir, we are greatly honored by your gracious presence and immensely inspired by your address. We assured the Honorable Minister we are all together working on this development initiative and would find new solutions and learn the good practices of cross-country tomorrow by the time this conference comes to an end. I would like to thank the chairman of ADFIAP, Mr. Shivaji Yadav, for bringing this meeting to India and through his able leadership and guidance, ensuring ADFIAP becomes the focal point of all development banks and financial institutions engaged in financing and development. The DFIs play a major role in each country, and we need to continue our efforts in our respective areas of expertise and strengthen linkages with other institutions with similar mandate. It's my pleasant duty to record our deepest appreciation to all the institutions and my fellow colleagues here who have made this possible, and to Mr. Octavio Peralto, Secretary General, and his team, including Norman Tilos, Deputy Secretary General, and to the ADFIAP Secretariat. Besides them, we have worked closely as a team. The organization team has worked very closely with various organizations, even managers, service providers, and the hotel staff to make this event. Last but not least, my thanks to the both print and electronic media who are here being us. I would like to end this vote of thanks with our ancient prayer for universal peace and harmony. Sarve bhavantu suginaga, sarve santu niramaya, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kashid dukkha bhag bhaved. May all become happy, may all become free from illness, may all see what is good, and may no one suffer. Thank you, and Jai Hind.
Thank you, Mr. Kalyanaraman, for your warm vote of thanks. Ladies and gentlemen, with this we conclude the inaugural session. We will now take a short break. We would request all our esteemed guests to kindly vacate this room as we are going to prepare for the next segment, which is the awards and the cultural function. We will commence at 8 p.m. So we request you to kindly join us back at 8 p.m. See you back soon.